and welcome to the 2 Minute Warning. I'm your host, Perry Busby. 2 Minute Warning is brought to you by the West Side Gazette, and I'm proud to present my co-host and the publisher of the West Side Gazette, Mr. Bobby Henry. Bobby, how you doing, man?
I am terrific and getting better. Now, if you guys see me moving, off the screen, it's only because I'm trying to focus in on another computer to see if I can share this information to get it to more people. But other than that, Perry, I'm alive and kicking.
Okay, you multitasking these days.
I'm a dinosaur, but I'm moving kind of swift, if you will. How you doing,
Hey,
bro? Hmm.
man, I'm doing good. I'm blessed, man. And now just happy to be here another week, man. Man, glad to be here, but boy, it's been a week.
Yeah, yeah. To say the least, man.
Yeah.
I was going back over an article that Noonie Robinson wrote about the Congressman Al C. Hastings, and he said the void left by the death of Congressman Al C. Hastings to be readily filled by several capable candidates, including former mayors, commissioners Barbara Cherie and Dale Holness, among others, would prove an extremely challenging and that word ARDUOUS.
Arduous.
Thank you. Proposition. Yeah, okay. Based on the myriad accomplishments of a career replete uh, with numerous successes and political battles. So we got to deal with that, on a show, on an
Yes.
upcoming show. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, man, you said it. This week has been something else, brother.
Yeah. On the local and the national front, man.
Yeah.
It's uh,
Mm.
with this case finally, the defense finally resting the case.
Yeah.
Uh, so now we get to closing arguments, and
Yeah.
that in the midst of another one, man. It is just. Uh, but I did get my second shot,
Oh,
so
well, congratulations, man.
that's one hurdle.
You didn't do you didn't do
Look,
Johnson and Johnson, did
yeah, yeah. Speaking of shot, I got mine, but
you?
yeah, and but no, it this is we're dealing with some dangerous times. I was trying to think going back if I ever felt as concerned about my society at 21
Hmm.
as these kids are. I mean, man, that's for a young man, 21, a young father, you know, to be shot. Man, I don't know if I ever saw life in quite those terms.
Well, we appropriately named the show #SSDD. You
Yeah,
know, so I mean, there you go. Same diggity, different day.
different day.
Um, yeah, man. But and it's happening all over the country. You know,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, yeah,
Uh, One would think that perhaps we've learned some lessons from past uh, ills, if you will, but it doesn't appear that nothing has changed, man.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
And but we're not going to belabor because we've got a distinguished panel to help us understand this, and some who are on the front lines of this to help us understand this
Mm-hmm.
and begin to digest it. So, man, I'm really excited about tonight, and I'm so honored to share this platform with this distinguished um, guest that we have tonight. And so I
Yeah.
look forward, and I'm just ready to get started because I'm like
Okay.
everyone else. I want to hear from these brothers.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So who you gonna bring out first?
You know, heck, man, they all deserve their own stuff. Since we've had one of the gentlemen on the program before, um, let's do him. Let's do your homeboy. Bring your homeboy out.
Okay. Our first guest, I've known and I've seen him just grow as in terms of his activism and his desire to help lead our community into this new age. And I've seen him in so many hats. And I appreciate that because I wear a lot of hats too. But I've seen him from the Black Chamber to working in corporate America. But now, most recently, he's known for his work as one of the writers and editors at the Forward Times, and he is also a Houston Forward Times, and he's also a city councilman uh, in the Fort Bend, Missouri City area. He serves District B, if I'm not mistaken. My good friend Jeffrey Boney.
What's going on, gentlemen? How
All
you
right,
doing?
how you doing, Jeff? I hope I didn't butcher it too bad.
No, you did perfectly fine, man.
No,
I'm
man,
one of them.
he left off the main part, man. The
Uh,
award winning,
award winning. Oh man, yeah, of course you can't forget that. But no, yeah, you
Now,
got
but
it.
when you're award winning, it speaks for itself, man. You don't have to
Hey,
say it.
hey, it is what it is. But as they say, it is what it is.
it
And
is what it
you
is.
also forgot a very important piece as well that I'm a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated. Are you? So
All
I
right.
mean, that's an extremely important thing not to forget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I will accept that. Not being the Q, I will accept
All right.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, let me bring on the next gentleman. Our next guest, this is his first time coming on our show, and he's coming from the state of Tennessee. Mr. Trini Williams. Trini is the associate publisher of the Memphis Silver Star newspaper, which is also a member of the NNPA, the National Newspaper Publishers Association, the Black Press of America. Trini has a myriad of things that he's involved with, but welcome, Trini. What's happening, man?
Can't hear you.
Hey, how you doing today?
There you go.
I'm to be on this
Yeah.
panel with all of you. Thank you, Brother Henry, for having me as well. Be with all the other gentlemen here today.
Okay. Okay.
All right. All right. And our next guest is Reuben Roberts. Reuben is the CEO and founder of RER Consulting Enterprises, which is a strategic planning, evaluation management, and program management and training firm. Uh, but his other role in terms of our community, he served on many commissions in the Miami-Dade area, and recently he just finished his term as the president of the Miami-Dade branch of the NAACP. Uh, Mr. Reuben Roberts.
Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you all for having me on this show tonight. I'm very excited about engaging in this most important dialogue about matters of what's going on in our society today.
Thank you. Okay, and next, and this gentleman here, I was surprised that he was able to participate tonight, because he's stressed out. He's coming to us from Minneapolis, Minnesota, where things are really hot. Brother Mel Reeves is God dog it, say the word for me, civil rights activist. Yeah, right on, my brother, and an award-winning journalist. Mel has covered a bunch of stuff, but what he's covering right now, and it's on a daily basis. And if you get a chance, he'll tell you how to pull his stuff up and see it. So bring on Mel Reeves from the Minneapolis Spokesman Recorder. What's up, Mel?
Unmute.
Mhm.
How's everybody doing?
Yeah, yeah, we're
It's
here.
Good,
good.
good to see you. Good.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
Oh,
let's get into it, Perry.
Well, the biggest discussion is Minnesota, and uh, Mel, I know you've been there on the street, so help fill us in on what it looks like from our perspective down
Hmm. Um, you mean from my perspective? From our
Mm.
perspective, so to speak.
there. Yes.
Yeah. So probably most of Black America was, and excuse my voice, as Bobby pointed out. I've been, I'm an activist before I'm a journalist, and so I've been out trying to help organize and working with different folks, activists, community members, and families, to try to push to make sure this woman went to jail. So as you know, uh, so people all over the U.S., Black folks, are a little concerned, a little anxious about the results of this trial, right? And so you take that and you kind of double it for Minneapolis because he got killed right here, and so you can kind of feel at one point when the trial first started, you can kind of feel the tension in the air, all right? And then what was crazy about the fact that tension was already in the air was I wrote about a little over 2 weeks ago, the Minneapolis cops actually attacked this kid. There was a big dispute. The kid had robbed somebody, not this kid, but one of the kid had carjacked somebody. They got the wrong guy. They were dragging him to the neighborhood. People were saying, you got the wrong guy. And they tried to get the cops' attention to get the right guy. Anyway, the kids are back and forth with cops. They decided to grab one guy and beat up on him. And you think, man, the trial is going on. That's the background. People are already upset. You would think that people would be on their best behavior. The same day in St. Paul, they issued a no knock warrant for an 18-year-old. His mother happened to be home. They pushed past her and grabbed the 11-year-old son and choked him. They, in a press conference about both those events because it's a little surprising. So, not to me because I see how these folks operate, but it's a little surprising that they would continue to be brutal and hostile and harassing folks in this climate because people are mad. And then they set the stage. You all saw this. I wrote about this. You see when you see the pictures of the courthouse, you see all the fencing around and the barbed wire. Not just barbed wire, folks. They got razor wire. And then when you go inside, actually been in the courtroom twice. I'm part of the press pool, and so because of COVID, under normal circumstance, there were probably about as many as maybe 10 folks from the press in the courthouse, in the courtroom. But because of COVID, there's only one person from the press allowed in, the print press, and one from the broadcast press. Forgive my voice, y'all. I've been trying to get it right all day, but it ain't coming back just yet. Um, and so anyway, so I was in there, and when you go in, man, it's a fortress, right? You go through a gate that you're met by the police, and then the National Guard. They got the AR-50, whatever the heck them things are. I mean, it's kind of uncomfortable. And then you got 3 security checkpoints. You go through one, then you go through a metal detector on one place, then you go upstairs where they always have a metal detector upstairs, but that's always there. But at 3 checkpoints, man. And so the point is, what are they trying to protect? I mean, it's them. I said to folks, it's them that killed one of us, not vice versa. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody want to be putting up fences, it should be us putting up fences. Like one of my friends said, you need to put the fence around the cops. You know what I'm saying? Because they're the ones running around brutalizing folks, and doing stuff to people. But so people were tense, man. And so then Deontay Wright gets killed. That Sunday, I was at a anniversary for this woman, Tashira Garway. Her fiance was beaten to death over 10 years ago and left in a garbage compactor by the police. Yeah, and she's been fighting for her fiance for over 10 years. And we got a whole lot of folks, and she's got a group called Family Supported Families, and you got it all over the country. There in Miami, when I was there for a bit, when I went back because my mother was ill. I helped fight some police brutality cases there. So you got a bunch of them in Miami. I'm sure in Miami-Dade and Broward, if y'all put together an organization of families that have lost a loved one to police violence, that would get into the dozens. And so we've got dozens here, and they're organized into a family group. And they've been organizing, and we've been pushing this. So that Sunday, we are pushing them to reopen all the cases. And we've been doing this nationally too with families all around the country. We have this national push to prosecute the police to the fullest extent of the law in all the cases, and to reopen all of them and prosecute. Those are our demands. As well as we don't come from a place that of the funding and all that. We say, man, we got to start all over. So that's where we're coming from,
Yeah.
man. People are fighting. They're frustrated. They're hurt. It's like the media likes to talk about us being traumatized. I get nervous when your enemy always talking about you in a weak state. So that makes me a little nervous. I don't like talking about trauma. You notice I don't even write about it much. Yeah, we're kind of traumatized, but we're gonna move on. You know what I'm saying? I think our enemy likes to see us do the Don Lemon thing, or what I'm saying, the Van Jones thing, get on TV and start crying and all that. You know what I'm saying? So we getting our butts kicked on some level, but we're fighting back. So we be clear. So people, we want y'all to know that we're fighting back. People take to the streets every night. The reason that they put that cop in jail, we had thousands of people in the street in Brooklyn Center, and Brooklyn Center is just north of Minneapolis. It's just a suburb, just north of where I am. It's only about 10 miles from where the courthouse is that you see. So that's how close. Yeah. And you think, again, they would be on their best behavior. But this woman, because when you see the film, there's clearly no reason for her to even got involved. If you notice, the brother had him outside the car, had him in hand, right? About to put the handcuffs on him. She comes rushing up, and I ain't no telling what. And so people here also are not buying into the idea that this was an accident. We found one of her friends, former friends on Facebook, a white woman on Facebook. She said, no, former friend said that was no accident. She said that the woman is racist. Mm-hmm.
And
And that
that's her
she even
friend.
admitted to her, yes, that former friend, because her friend left her alone when she realized how racist she was over time. They fell out because she admitted when she became a cop that she was actually racially profiling folks. Her friend was like, what? Oh yeah, so she got on Facebook and told on it. So yeah, she been racist since she was in high school. So and her friend wrote a post saying it wasn't no accident. Her former friend, yeah. So that's what's going on here, man. Now we're waiting with bated breath for the verdict, and I'm gonna tell you something. If it's an ugly one, the young people here, I can just tell you that now, they are not finna lay. It's gonna be ugly. That's why they got all this National Guard now, because they know, on one hand that folks ain't gonna lay down for it. But the other thing that's going on is the National Guard and the police are just doing stuff to people. People are peacefully protesting, man, and they're shooting the tear gas and rubber bullets, and they're hitting kids and stuff. And these kids ain't doing nothing. Now, no doubt, they put up a curfew, but the curfew was just to provoke folks. There was no need for a curfew. It's
Yeah.
just them trying to let us know that we in charge. And the kids pushed back against, we ain't staying home because put on curfew, so they were out past it, no doubt. But there's no reason to be shooting at folks and firing tear gas. And where the police station is, they got a bunch of apartment buildings, and they're firing that tear gas into the. We had a press conference today demanding that they cut this foolishness out, man. So it's wild. We pushed back, but then the cops still, we're protesting their violence, and guess what, y'all? They still being violent. So you know what I'm saying. So we just keep pushing forward, demanding that all we can do. We keep fighting, demanding they be prosecuted, and we push it back because we keep getting people out of the street. That's how we're able to get a little justice, a little room. Every time they do something, we come out in the street. Like we're gonna stop them from doing all this rubber bullet stuff and all this because it's supposed to be a liberal place, so the government is mindful of their national and international image. So I anticipate they're gonna stop all that rubber bullet firing and all that tear gas stuff because they realize that the press has put it out there and they're looking bad. So I'm gonna stop at that.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Bonnie, what's going on in Houston, man? Y'all. I guess has things died down at all? I mean, the light bills are still high. They're still running that. What they doing?
Well, fortunately, man, we are still kind of on the recovery side of the winter storm, is what you're referencing. But the company ERCOT, or the entity ERCOT, just announced, matter of fact, yesterday they sent out a note that they needed to have us conserve energy because they were about to lose power potentially again if that didn't happen. So there's a lot of things happening during this current legislative session to try to address the situation. Our governor, this happened under his watch, along with many other things that have happened with COVID and other things. So this has been a huge debacle that we're trying to get addressed. I know the board members, including the chair and all those folks, none of which actually lived in Texas, resigned, and they're looking to do some structuring of that setup because Texas operates off of its own electric grid. It's not on the East or the West Coast grid. And so, we try to be the Lone Star State. But you got a lot of Republicans in power who put us in this situation that not only cost us water, cost us power, but also cost many people's lives as a result of those decisions. But, right here in Houston, man, we're closely following the trial of Derek Chauvin, the Minneapolis officer who killed my good friend George Perry Floyd Jr., who I went to middle school with, who I went to high school with. I,
Mm-hmm.
went to Ryan Middle School with Big Floyd. I went to that's what we call him, Big Floyd. Listen, we went to middle school together. We went to high school at Jack Yates High School together, and it pains me to know that Big Floyd was the one on that camera, that
Mm.
video camera, getting murdered like that before the whole world's eyes, and especially those who knew him like me. And he's the coolest dude you could ever meet in your life.
Big Floyd.
Big Floyd, man, I'm talking about, man, wasn't nobody like
Hmm.
him. He was a gentle giant, for real. I mean, people don't know Big Floyd and how he used to, encourage people, man, to seek a relationship with God, and he had changed his life and was really trying to better his situation. That's why he moved over to Minnesota, trying to look for opportunity. But he would drag out the little tub, the little pool in the middle of the CUNY homes where he grew up in Third Ward. The projects, CUNY homes, right across from Yates High School and Texas Southern University. He would bring the tub out, man, and he was part of this church where they would baptize kids and people right there on the basketball court. I
Mm.
mean, so this is the kind of guy he was, man. He wasn't a thug, and everybody goes through things in their life, man. But there's an old popular French saying, and it's kind of tied to y'all's, well, not y'all's, but our topic today, SSDD. But it's the more things change, the more they stay the same. And as it
Mm-hmm.
relates to what we're seeing right now in America, I mean, that's saying spot on. Even with solid legislation, with civil rights groups out here like the NAACP and the Urban League and others, and advocates, still racist individuals and people in positions of power, even some who look like us,
Yeah.
who've harmed us and who are harming us in unthinkable ways. 9 minutes and 29 seconds to put your knee on somebody's neck.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it cannot move for an alleged $20 counterfeit bill. Really? I mean, that's what we're doing. Philando Castile in the same state, who had a license to carry, shot and killed because he reached for his his card to show the officer to let him know that he was actually carrying his weapon in front of his daughter. You shoot and kill this man. Then you got, of course, Dante Wright. And I can
Mm-hmm.
go on and on and on. I
Yeah.
mean, we know the names. We see what's going on, but we're getting extremely tired as Black people of having to revisit our dark past, man, of being targeted, racially profiled, wondering whether we or one of our loved ones be the next unsuspecting victim of somebody who's targeted us simply because we're Black in America. You see the young Black man who was in South Carolina who was targeted by the white neighbor. He didn't even know
Mm-hmm.
he lived in the neighborhood, and this young man was
Yeah.
pushed and shoved and threatened and bullied by this older military man, and
Hmm.
he didn't even know that this young man stayed in the neighborhood. So I mean, these things are concerning, and worse, for us to die at the hands of these people that are supposed to protect and serve, but they're in positions of power and authority, and they've historically faced no accountability for their actions. So I think this is going to be a telling trial result. I really am praying and hoping that Big Floyd gets justice, as well as his family and many others like Big Floyd. He's not the only one. So many others who haven't gotten their just due, and the time to change that should be now. George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Dante Wright, like I said, Philando Castile, Trayvon Martin, Emmett Till,
Mm-hmm.
Sandra Bland, Rakia Boy. I mean, this S is exhausting just to even mention these names, right?
Right.
So Sandra Bland right here in Prairie View in Houston area, Mike Brown, Eric Garner. I mean, why do we have to keep adding to the list?
It goes on and on and on. Okay. Okay. SSDD. Ruben.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah. 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 As a former NAACP, and I don't What are our organizations doing to address um, this seemingly continual assault on a people? What are they? What are they doing? And what can we do?
Well, well, there's a lot that can be done. We saw that over the summer. We have multiple organizations. You know, you had the Black Lives Matter, who they're different organizations, not one particular entity, as you know. You have the NAACP, and we have our national, and then we have our branches throughout the local. I can't speak to what everyone else is doing. I can share with you, the immediate past president, as to what we do and what we've done. And I've definitely been in the trenches as the president of the Miami-Dade branch and work with a collective of folks. So there's a couple of approaches and a couple of schools of thoughts. So one is we have to address these issues in terms of policy. So one of the things that protects these rogue officers is the Police Bill of Rights. And we have one of the most stringent police bill of rights in the state of Florida. It's called 112, legislation rule 112. Officer can harm somebody and kill someone, and they can't be sued. So they have the qualified immunity. The other thing is that officer can shoot someone, and before that officer is questioned, you can't even question the officer in the state of Florida until the investigation is over. So that means the state attorney we have a state attorney, some other places have district attorneys or whatever. State attorney has to complete their investigation. Generally, FDLE, the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, is in. They have to complete their investigation before you can even question this officer. And guess what happens? When they question him, he has to be able to see all of the evidence that was obtained. Now think about that. If I commit a crime and you give me all of the evidence that you've obtained from that crime, I can shape and fashion my response, to help me, win the case. So these are the rules that they have for the sworn officers. The other thing is they're licensed to be a law enforcement officer is not taken away from them automatically. So even in the case when there's an officer that has shot but not been found guilty, he or she can go to another department, and they're still their law license is still active. The department that they work for is supposed to submit that to the Department of Law Enforcement, whether it be Florida or Texas or wherever you are, to submit that they recommend that this officer's license is taken. So they have with that, once they are certified lawmen and women, they in essence have a license to kill. Think about it. Think about what happens when we encounter, and not only think about that, think about the systemic racism that's involved in this. Let me tell you how real it is. Because right around the time we had all of the protests, we had those incidents with the Karens, where the guy's out there bird watching. And she distinctly says, I'm going to call the police and tell them that a black man is harassing me. Think about that. So they weaponize their privilege. These folks who are not black, they understand what's happening. Don't get it twisted. They understand what's happening with us and how we're treated by law enforcement officers. Just because you may have some status, you may get a pass. But if they don't know your child or they don't know your nephews or nieces, they're not going to get that pass that you get. You understand? So they weaponize that. And they tell you they're going to weaponize it. The other incident where a young man was walking into a building to visit his friend, and the white man and his son
Yeah.
standing outside, and he wants to ask the man 20,000 questions about who is he going to see. I mean, the last I checked, this is America. You know what I mean? So we're supposed to have the freedom to access whatever. What gives him the right to question? You see? But that's what that privilege does. It makes you feel that you have the right, you can have the audacity to question any black person. It's almost like in slavery days where you had to have your papers from
Show
the
me your
master
papers, boy. Yeah.
to go from one plantation to the next.
Mm-hmm.
So we're dealing with this, but the best part about this is it's just like what happened in the civil rights era, just like what happens when when the world saw those German shepherds, when they saw those water hoses being placed on those people who were peacefully protesting. Then America got that stain. They got that black eye because they're supposed to be the ones that's supposed to be about peace and about unity and about togetherness and that sort of thing. But the images that you saw told a different story. And up until George Floyd, let me tell you, Brother Boney, his death is not going to be in vain. They already done some legislative actions in different states. His death will never be in vain. Never be in vain. We will always remember George Floyd, or Big Floyd as you call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't care what he did in his past. You cannot treat a human being the way that he was treated. And that's the biggest problem. When they see us, they don't see us as human.
Hmm.
And these are the people I'm speaking of, the people who are inflicting this harm on us. When they see us, they don't see us as human. They see us as subhuman. So that gives them, they feel that they have the authority, those people who have the badge, and some of them don't even have a badge, that they can treat us in any manner that they choose. I'm going to say this last thing. I want you all to remember this. If you ever went swimming before and you ever got into a situation where you almost drowned, the normal reaction for you to do is to fight to get a breath of air. When you got your knee on my neck and my back and you tell me stop resisting, that is totally antithetical to what a human being is going to do. They're going to fight to get every breath of air. You can't obstruct my breathing and then tell me to stay still. And then say, well, he resisted. No, I'm not. I'm trying to breathe.
I'm trying to breathe.
So, I'm trying to breathe, man. And they say, well, if he can talk, then he can breathe. No, you're cutting down the oxygen capacity. His lungs doesn't have a chance to expand, and they don't have. You have to understand the physiological ramifications of all of this. So America hears this from these police officers, and they feel that, hey, they're justified for their actions. But I would tell you, anyone that brings that argument to you, ask them if they ever remember being close to drowning. Same thing with waterboarding. If you've been in the military, you've ever experienced that. The same exact thing. You're going to fight. You're going to wiggle. You're going to squirm. You're going to do whatever you can to get whatever breath of air you can, because you know you don't have that capacity. You're not getting all of the oxygen in. And so this is the thing that has been used time and time again. This is the thing that we have to address when it comes down to incidents like these with these police officers who respond in a violent manner when they approach us. And they approach us over some BS. A busted tail light, freaking $20 bill. My life is worth more than $20. Your life is worth more than $20. Your life is worth more than a busted tail light. So what I am pleased about is I saw the response of America protesting. And I guarantee you, George Floyd's death will not be in vain. These youth that we got going on, people in our age category, we are people who are not black, people from all racial, ethnic groups and hues are standing up and protesting. We outnumber those people who want to see damage inflicted upon us. And if we understand that, we understand our power, we understand our power, that's going to be the thing that really address. See, I'm a large black man. I'm already, when I walk in, when I get out my car, and I don't walk with my head down. Now, Bobby, you know, I walk with my head up, chest out, and I don't care where I go. You understand? And so when they see that, they want to see you bowed. They want to see you, they want to see you bent down. My son and I'd rather, I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. Listen,
Come on,
I'm
man.
gonna tell you right now that you're not gonna do that. When you saw how that officer treated George, he's a big guy. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
Hear that? Listen to the words. He's a big guy. So you're gonna try to show that you can handle him any kind of way because he's a big guy. That's not your job, sir. That's not your job, but that's what we're dealing with in America. Let me get off my horse, man.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay. Trina, what's going on over there? What's happening in the mountains of Tennessee?
A lot going on in Tennessee. I think most recently, what people see on the news around the globe is a shooting that took place in Knoxville, Tennessee. I'm actually in Memphis on the west side of Tennessee, but that was in Knoxville on the east side of Tennessee, and where a student was killed and an officer was injured in that process of things. But I guess one of our first school shootings of the year. You know, we've heard of different shootings occurring over the past decade or two, and that put the focus on a lot of people because what's happening in the more predominantly white communities and areas. You know, if I can recall, I'm sure there've been some shootings somewhere in our communities, and it wasn't on the radar for the news to or for resolutions and for things to be resolved as much as it is now, because now it's occurring in a lot of middle class and upper middle class communities and all of that. So as it impacts more of the Caucasian community, now it becomes a tremendous big issue. Um, of course, we don't like all those types of shootings occurring in our schools with our students and with our teachers and all that. As a matter of fact, my daughter, she teaches in Knoxville. It was not at her school though, and uh, and she's safe and secure as many others are in Knoxville and other areas. But it is something we have to really address in regards to who's able to carry or who's able to get their hands onto weapons. Tennessee has been looking at laws to actually where you don't need to have a permit to carry. You can carry concealed or not concealed, and be able to carry whatever you want, wherever you want, as long as you don't have a record and some other things that you have to do. And of course, you have to do background checks before you purchase a weapon. But that's what's going on in Tennessee. I'm from South Carolina. That's where I was born and raised on the first part of my childhood years. And looking at the young man there, where look, he looked like he might have been about 130 pounds, maybe about 5'6", something like that. And you got this military non-commissioned guy who's harassing him and bullying him on the sidewalk just because he saw a man of color that he could do that to. And one of the things I read when someone was talking as well, in one of the news channels was they know who to mess with, because they don't usually walk up on nobody from the hood, but they can walk up on this little fella about 130 pounds, look fairly innocent, and just walking throughout the neighborhood. He walked up on him, pushed him, and all that kind of thing, and talked. They called the police, not knowing that those charges were going to be placed on the man that was causing all the issues. But that is just one of the things we see, because we see so many things on television now because people have these cameras on their phones where they can video. Even though we still don't see the results from all these different catastrophes that are occurring in cities across the country, but not just across the country, but around the world. Africans, people of color, are expendable to a lot of other people's eyes, and we don't get the respect and the honor and the privilege of doing a lot of things. So they feel like taking advantage of those types of things. I can remember one young man being pulled over just for a traffic violation because the police officer thought he was a drug dealer, but he worked for a major corporation, going to school, served in the military. Somebody else pulls over because they wanted to say, quote unquote, they thought the truck was stolen. Somebody else get pulled over because they had an expired tag, but still yet the police officers come out on both sides of the vehicle with their weapons drawn. Another time where they thought they had someone's ID and pulled them out and searched them and put them in the back of the car, trying to figure out what they can get somebody on. And
Mhm.
this is not just people that are randomly. This is what has happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a few of them
Mm-hmm.
that's happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
All right. In the midst of my daily activities, it's happened to me
Mm-hmm.
as an African American, as a black male, as a man of color. So when I see these things going on, it raises a high concern for my children and for all of your children as
That's
well,
right.
because you don't know when that time may come in the apartment complex they live in, or on the campus that they're going to school, or just going down the street, or just visiting somewhere where the tables were turned and they'll be in a dire situation just because they had an air freshener hanging up on the rearview mirror, or just because, like Ruben said, a busted tail light, or just because they think that just because they're walking through a parking lot, they must be trying to look for a car to break in. Uh, this has to stop. And it's not that the people we have a problem with, I'm a man of faith and all of that. We're wrestling against principalities, against the rulers of the darkness of this world. That's what we're really wrestling against.
Mm-hmm.
So if people's hearts, minds, and souls are not changed, and that's including us as well as anyone else who's trying to cause these issues, until our hearts, minds, and souls are changed, we'll continue to have these issues popping up because people want to say we're playing the race card. It's not a race card. I mean,
Okay.
you can call it what it is. Okay,
Yeah.
if it is a race card, it's a real card,
Mm-hmm.
and it's because it's really happening. And a lot of people don't understand because we haven't said enough. These
Right.
things have not happened before. Of course, it may have been worse in times when there was lynchings and all these other types of things, but people have a new way of doing it. I don't know if you all heard, and I'm sure Brother Jeffrey can recall this school in Texas where the students were talking about auctioning some black students.
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come
Yeah.
from? Where did they get this mentality to actually feel this way in a middle school where they want to auction off black folks? This has got to stop,
Yeah.
and we have to lead the charge in regards to making it all just cease and no longer be. Now I'm going to do my part. Hopefully, everybody else will do their part, regardless of whatever color, whatever gender, whatever neighborhood. None of that matters. We just got to do what we got to do. But I tell you what, if it doesn't happen, we're going to see some major riots all over this country.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
If something just happens where everybody's scot free from all these different incidences from New York to Minnesota to California, there are going to be riots all around the country and all over the world because it's unfair. It's unfair to see the tragedies that we have among our people. And sometimes, I want to put it back on us because we should have more ownership in our communities. We should have more ownership to where we can have more say so in regards to how things are going to happen. Okay. And we should be raising our children to do just those types of things. When we start doing that, then we can raise the bar even more. And also, while we're doing that, maybe we can talk about how they can change different policies and plans and how people who are serving in the community can really serve everyone and not be different based on the color of someone's skin. We have to really be diligent in this matter and not just talk about it, but be about it. And I know everybody here on this panel, we're all about it because we're writing about it. We're out here standing in the gap for all these different situations, but we need more and more and more of our young people and our older people coming and making a difference and speaking out to everybody. And those who are sitting back and waiting to see what happens, come out your closet, come out your house, come out of those things, and not let people antagonize you where you're so afraid you don't want to stand up for what is right.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of issues and challenges that are occurring. And I mean, We've seen these incidents, what, 5 or 6 of them within the past week, you know,
That's
from
right.
South Carolina. Then we talked to the lieutenant in Virginia, and then we got the incident going down in Texas. Then we got another incident going on in Minnesota. Then we got the thing going on in Tennessee. You know, these things have occurred within the past week that we have heard about, and things are constantly going on and on and on. There's time for change, and now we're
And those things are outwardly done. If this is true, what is happening here in Broward County, as it pertains to a special needs kid inside of a classroom, uh, the teacher allegedly, no, she admitted, she repeated the word nigger 5 times, nigger, 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 to the point where the behavioral specialist had to come in and remove the kid from the classroom. Okay, now in doing that, allegedly, the teacher mocked him as he was going out the door. The kid stopped and turned back and said something. Anyway, they got him out of the classroom. One of the workers called the teacher to come outside, and he asked the teacher, what did she say? And why did she say it? She said it made her feel good. All right? So now here we have a situation where this teacher was allowed to go back into the classroom with this same kid. So if something were to happen between this teacher and this kid's life is ruined. So we may see it physically in Minnesota, in Houston, in South Carolina, but here in Florida, we have an incident where it's happening from a psychological beatdown, castration, if you will. So it is the same, different day. There is nothing new under the sun. Trinity, you said under the sun, you said we were fighting against principalities and wickedness in high places. That ain't new. You know, that's not new. So what are we to do? Are we to cow down out of fear? What do we do? That's not a rhetorical question, brothers. I'm asking, what do we do?
Well,
So
this
there's
is
a couple of things
okay.
like I was saying, we have to address policy. We have to look at, have you guys ever noticed, I don't know how it is where you are, in Dade and Broward County, we have more black correctional officers than we do police officers. Anybody can be a correctional officer. Anybody can be locked up and watch the people that's in jail. But they limit the amount of black police officers.
On the road.
And when you see people, they don't have a cultural competency. You know, one of my favorite questions when I speak with the chiefs, I say to them, I say, can you effectively protect and serve a community that you're afraid of? And I think the answer is no. Because if you fear me, you're gonna come automatically try to protect yourself. You're gonna do the first law of nature. You're gonna try to protect yourself. Now you legally have the badge and the gun.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have to change these policies with the qualified immunity, remove the police bill of rights. We need to hire more black cops. We need to make sure now we can't legislate any type of morality. So you can't change a person's views of who you are, but you can make them pay the price for treating you in an inhumane way. And so we have policies on the books that we have to enforce for those people who are out there working and doing anything that's racially incendiary to someone else. So those things these are some of the things that we can do, and much more, protest and speak out about, like Brother Williams said, but there are things that we can handle from a policy perspective. There's things that we can do from an activist perspective in terms of us reaching out and advocating for civil rights and for our people. And then there are things that we can do from a financial perspective. I guarantee you, those officers know that they lose their law license. They know that they can be sued. That qualified immunity does not apply to them. I bet you they think two or three times. You saw what that lady did up there in Minnesota. She resigned right away. She resigned right away. Why? Save her pension. Save her pension.
Okay, we got a question here. One of the viewers just asked this question. John Shaft said, there were several organizations in our black communities beating us over the head about voting. Why don't they come out and beat us with education?" Ooh. But let's continue the conversation. Boney, you were about to say something.
Yeah, man. First of all, there was this. You've heard this quote before by this Protestant pastor named Martin Niemöller. He was a guy who spent about 7 years of Nazi rule in a concentration camps, and he was one of the most outspoken critics of Adolf Hitler. And he's best remembered for the following quote, where y'all heard it first. They came for the socialists.
Yes, sir.
And I didn't speak out because I wasn't a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, but I didn't speak out because I wasn't a trade union. Came for the Jews, I didn't speak out because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I think there's a few things that we can do, because many of us don't speak out. We're more reactionary than we are, proactive. First of all, and I kind of want to double down on what Brother Robert said. We need to use our money, our resources as both a tool and a weapon. One of the things I learned from historically, you look at some of the movements in the past, and we can just go with one of the most common ones, the Montgomery bus boycott, which wasn't the only bus boycott or only boycott that took place, but they used their money and their resources as a tool and a weapon. And that's really what get people's attention. You see what happened after George Floyd was murdered on camera. There was this influx of folks that was just like, oh, what kind of causes can we give towards? What kind of scholarship programs can we create? What kind of stuff we can do so that we can show or look the part that we are supportive of civil rights? But you have somebody in Colin Kaepernick who took a knee every single game to let people know that this was an issue, and it took George Floyd and his death on camera for us to once again look at the same thing that Brother Roberts also talked about before, which was Bloody Sunday, where it was the attention that was brought forth because of the embarrassment brought forth in America when you had civil rights activists like Dr. King constantly going to a Democratic president, Lyndon B. Johnson, telling them we need to pass Voting Rights Act here in America and deal with the segregation of the South and the Jim Crow laws and the lynching and things that was going on. And guess what? They were ignored. These advocates were ignored. So when we started using our money, as a powerful tool to empower our communities, empower ourselves, get behind organizations and strengthen organizations that can support and continue to advocate for us on the front lines, while also punishing those companies. Like in Georgia, when that bill passed, you see immediately after, because of the protest, you had people, companies like Coca-Cola and others that are based in Georgia, who started speaking out against it. They should have spoke out beforehand, but we didn't put, again, from a proactive standpoint, the pressure on them up front to deal with those laws before they not only passed in the House and the Senate in Georgia, but also became law after being signed into law by the governor. Secondly, I think we need to get involved as a people continuously in public policy decisions and politics, or support civil rights groups or advocacy groups who are truly on the front lines that are dealing with them. We can't just be reactionary here. We can't just wait for them to pass laws that are going to negatively impact us. We have to be out on Front Street, as they say, and deal with it before it becomes a reality for us. And now we're on the back end trying to right these wrongs and whatnot. Second thing, speaking about the politics end of it, we need to continue to follow these election integrity bills, because they're trying to remove our power as black people to make a difference and an impact. Goes back to what happened during Reconstruction. I mean, what happened? You had blacks that had prominent positions of power coming out of the Civil War and after the Emancipation Proclamation during Reconstruction, and then the Ku Klux Klan rose to power, started lynching and terrorizing black people, and not only black people, but those abolitionists and people that were supportive of black causes. And guess what? Along the way, we started losing power, losing lives, and losing strength. And people came along and just didn't have the same passion to fight for our causes anymore. So we have to understand the power that we possess as a people, man, and do something
That's
about it,
right.
not only with our money, but also getting involved with politics in a major way and understand politics, understand public policy, because everything that impacts our lives, I don't care what you say, everything is something that is tied to public policy or legislation, whether it's local government, whether it's state government, whether it's county government, or whether it's federal government.
You know, I was just looking at something, and Bonnie, you talked about the money aspect. I was reading this ad, this 2-page ad that was taken out in the other people newspapers, and it's we stand for democracy. These different businesses who opposed what Georgia was doing, Amazon, Bank of America, Microsoft, Twitter, uh, Warren, as well as investors, including Warren Buffett and Atlanta-based Coca-Cola. We spend money in these businesses, but these damn businesses don't support our media. So when you talk about money, Jeff, you're absolutely right. We need to speak daily with our dollars. We need to. I mean, this is y'all supposed to be talking this show. I'm supposed to be
Well, if I can jump in and you talked about corporate, and I if I can speak from an IT perspective and make this real social, because we live in an information age, and I know we know that, but I think we just kind of live it sometimes, because we all industrialized minded people. That we all grew up in an industrial age, and that's how we think. But the better a company is, and I'm doing a contract with a company who is taking all of the data to understand just from a product, from each product unit, how much it sells, how it got invoiced, how many times it gets resold. And I'm saying not very many companies do that, in the sense that if you're a company, you may know how much your end day revenue is, but do you really know how many receipts you're supposed to be sending out, how many invoices you're supposed to be sending out, how many are due, how many are supposed to? I mean, if they are a multi-billion company who has gotten to the point that they need to understand it from a very sense of, I need to know what my products look like, then we as our community, we can't fight these things. I know we say we have data, but one of the things I started thinking about, we all hear about these shootings, and we know the names and we know the incidents, but do we know how many? Do we know where they are? Do we know all of these things on a rolling basis? And I started asking that, and I found out today there is a nonprofit group of IT people who have an organization called Mapping Police Violence. Do you know that last year there were only 18 days in which police didn't kill someone? In 2020, there were only 18 days that the police didn't kill a person. If that were a product, we'd say throw that shit away. It's not working. But devoid of facts and so much passion, it gets lost. And I think some of this we got to come to grips with. We got to learn this in a new way. We fighting enemies now that that plot in cyberspace, and all of a sudden you see it evolve into a January 6th riot because nobody really thinks that, well, what they doing in these quiet corners on these social media sites is really all that important. But that's because we look at it from a consumer point of view. These are tools and it's being used against us. And the next one that's coming against us will be the artificial intelligence. Because then you won't be able to find out who is really doing the the systemic racism to you then, because it's all automated. And who you gonna fight with? Customer service? These are the fights we have in our days that are kind of just, and so I know this is our fight, but at some point we're gonna have to bring in some new recruits to try to help us fight this better. I was telling Bobby, if we so used to knocking down walls and we don't know a door is 2 feet away, or what a door even is used for, then we got a problem, and we need people who can see some of this differently. I didn't grow up in I didn't grow up in a heavily police society. And I got to take responsibility. How did this happen on my watch? Because my parents didn't leave me with this. And now I got to leave my kids with this, and we can't just keep moving away from it. We can't keep finding another spring, another wood, another little meadow lake, or wherever we'd always like to move to get away to find this oasis of black life that never exists. And in the process, we done sold out all of our communities. And not just sold the land. Hell, we don't even have the history. I'm from a small southeast Texas town that's known for football. Bubba Smith, all of them, they come from it. Hell, I got kids today don't even know who those people are. And we don't even have a history of that town from the 1960s to now. All they can do is tell bits and pieces of it, and most of that shit is sports.
Man, oh man, yeah, whew. I don't know, man. When we were wrestling with coming up with a topic for this week, and I know we don't have a whole lot of time, but man, and brothers, I know we don't get together to talk enough about how we feel about stuff, and it bubbles up inside of us. And I could see these young folk engaging in activities that, man, the riots of the 60s won't hold a candle to this. You know, the Watts riot would seem like, a day on the playground. Um, and if we don't stand up in a manner, this is me talking. If we don't stand up in a manner, yeah, from a financial point, as the bus boycott, as well as a physical a point, and I'm not advocating violence. Let me say that I'm not advocating violence, but I'd be damned if I allow um, someone to take advantage of me, and I don't put up a fight. And I know these young folks are doing the same thing. And brothers, if we don't intercede in a manner and talk to them on a level where they understand, we're gonna find ourselves done. That's gonna be it, Mel. You in a situation right now. You know, I mean, Minnesota is a powder keg, and if that is any indication to what we're up against in the courts, Mr. Boney, Mr. Williams, if that's any indication, man, we in for a rude awakening, Ruben. You know, we in for a rude awakening. So the question that I ask is, what do we do? I know changing laws, that's a long process. And in the meantime, people are dying, you know. So what is um, a quick fix, if you will, or quick attention grabber, if you will, to say, hey man, what the hell is going on here? So
Well, I'm not
that's
sure if it's a
good.
quick fix, but we just have to do what we've done before, and that's use what we got. I remember a mentor of mine, and we were talking about different activities and what we should do, and I was asking him about some things. He said, "Well, hey, you know, just use what you got. You know, what we have are each other. What we have is a few dollars here and there, but when you put it together, it can be a whole lot. And supporting one another in our endeavors, in our businesses, in our education, in our families. We got to get back to those types of things and actually educating these younger people to do the same thing as well. Uh, by using what we have, then we can reach a whole new level of successes in our community and also a whole new level of safeties in our communities as well, among ourselves, as well as what we may experience from law enforcement and other politics and things like that. We really have to use what we have.
Hmm.
Let me give you a good example. When President Barack Obama, when he was running for his first term in office, one of the things that really helped out a whole lot was not just those big masses of money that a few people could give, but those little $10 and $20 and people coming out to woodworks giving an hour here and 30 minutes there to help formulate a victory on his behalf. We have to do the same thing in some type of campaign, some type of effort, individually and collectively, in our communities, in our businesses, in our organizations, and just use what we have. But we have to be really serious about it, not just in debate, but in action. Because a lot of times people do a whole lot of talking, but they're not doing a whole lot of walking. And we got to be walking this walk while we're more than we talking this talk. Because you know what? When you start walking it, people will start talking themselves. They'll see that you're serious about what you are doing and how you want to make things happen. That's the most important thing that any of us could do at this time. Just use what we have. I mean, I don't think any of us here have Warren Buffett money. If so, call me after this so we can talk about a few other things because we want to get some things rolling, okay? But it don't take that necessarily. We can start with what we have and work with ourselves in a tremendous way because economically we're struggling, and there are a whole lot of things like Perry was saying, and Brother Perry, I see with that glass, but I don't think that's fair because you didn't have enough for all of us. Um, we talking about artificial
Come on,
intelligence.
Trini.
We're talking about
Share the
I
artificial
get
love, share the
passionate.
intelligence.
love.
I get passionate about IT.
Yeah, but that artificial intelligence, there are a lot of things that are occurring. Let me give you one
Yeah.
example in regards to economics. I'm sure most of us here have heard about Bitcoin, and
Right.
Bitcoin started right after the recession.
Hmm.
It was fraction of a penny, and now, today it was right close to 64. We're with the 64,000. Now it's been bouncing around $63,000 per Bitcoin. We saw where Dogecoin and some other head people in economics back that, and then GameStop and all these other places. But when we look at this thing called Bitcoin, there are other cryptocurrencies that are out here taking advantage of the artificial intelligence and the decentralized financing of things. So why don't we get involved in those types of things? I mean, because I'm going to go from my experience. You can $1 can transform into $3 within a matter of no time. But do
Hmm.
we know enough about that? In 2019, barely 1% of America was using any type of cryptocurrency. In 2020, it went from 8 and then down about 15% within by the end of 2020. Okay. And mainly because people were in the pandemic, so they got a chance to really observe these things. What's going to happen in 2021? And how many of us are into the cryptocurrency and understanding the blockchain and decentralized financing and getting involved in those types of things? I know I am, and I'm teaching my children about it as well so they can know. And I'm going to have some articles as well to talk about those different types of things. But that's an economic thing that we can look at. Another thing is step by step, piece by piece, little by little, is mental health. We have a lot of mental health challenges in our communities, not just
Mm-hmm.
from the African American perspective, but from all others. Because it's for someone to have a racist, bigoted attitude, something's not right up here. Okay, and
Mhm.
we
Right.
have to deal with those types of things. And they're talking about how much more we're going to have these mental and social challenges because of the pandemic. How are we going to deal with this? Are we going to let our children suffer from that? Are we going to leave a legacy that they can carry on and build on financially, socially, mentally, physically, spiritually? We, but we have to use what we got. We have a whole lot to
Hmm.
offer, y'all. People, want to be, they want to say, have you ever run across some folks that want to say they're African, but they look like us? Okay. I ain't from Africa. I'm from America. You know. I said, you ain't gotta be mad about being African. Look, if if you are going to be in the Kentucky Derby, what kind of horse you want?
Mm.
The strongest,
Thoroughbred.
fastest, baddest horse it is. If you want to win a championship, you're gonna get the baddest athletes that there are. If you want to have a successful corporation, you're gonna get the baddest, best minds to make sure that company can grow up. Hey, that's what African Americans have been about. Us black folks have been about all this time. Nobody brought the folks over here because we were sorry and
Right.
lazy and couldn't get the job done. We were some of the best on the planet to get the job done, to help grow crops, to help build buildings, pave roads, and everything else. But we don't get the credit for that. But we have this ability, we have the power. Think about it. Every time that something happens, we get into this mode of where we can succeed and achieve. So we got to get this back into our young folks, and we have to lead that charge, and we have to organize it in a way where it can get us from step to step to step to step to step, where we can have some good successes along the way. But it takes action, not just talk. I'm a walker
Can,
more than I am a
can
talker. I
I?
can talk now, but I want to make some
Yeah.
things happen. I want to make some activity where we can really see some things, some changes in Memphis, Minnesota, and in Texas, in South Carolina, in Virginia, all across the country, in California, and all well. We have that opportunity, you all. And
Mm.
I see where we do those different types of things within our own capacities. And all we got to do is just keep on keeping on.
Okay.
Can I suggest something if you're done, brother?
Yes,
So
sir.
piggybacking on what he's saying, um, some of the things we've done before worked. We have to bring them back. And some of the things we're doing now, they become kind of circular. We have to be honest with ourselves, right? We get mad that the Democrats don't do what we want them to do, right? We rode them for a long time. But the truth of the matter, y'all, is when the Constitution was formed, when the government was formed, there was no Democrats and there were no Republicans, which tells me they had to form some parties, right? So at some
Right.
point, we're gonna have to form our own party. I mean, it is what it
Mm.
is. We can sit, it may make us nervous, but you know what they say: if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, that means something wrong with you, not them, and something wrong with us. And we look back at history. We talk about the police violence thing. The Black Panther Party was started fighting police violence. They realized that that police violence was the Achilles heel of this system, right? And they started fighting back against it, help black people to understand we can push back, we can fight back against them. Now, in every city, in every town, we've got people who have been victimized by these folks. We can keep a movement alive with just those people alone because they're carrying the spark, right? They're carrying they're carrying the pain, the trauma, and they want to fight. And we can organize around them. So one of the things we notice, we're paying attention because I'm in Minnesota, so I'm really aware of this. So they didn't really want to put that dude Derek Chauvin on trial or none of his boys. You know that, right? Well, what happened was we kept protesting. And next thing you know, people protest around the country, around the world. What they had to do? They offered it, not just Derek Chauvin, all of them, right? Now, under normal circumstances, we see people get shot, like you saw Brother Dante Wright get shot, and it take what? Maybe a month, 2 months, 3 months, and they come back with a grand jury thing, say, no, we ain't gonna let it in and Kenosha. If you notice, it came back real quick and said they're telling us something. A lot of people say protests don't work. It does work, right? So we begin to do protests as well. As I tell people, you don't got to be no revolutionary to do something in the community. Y'all remember when the churches used to do after school programs? What happened to that, right? The churches used to do prison programs, right? Feed, they're doing the food, I can't say it right now. They're feeding folks still, But we're not doing the
Yes.
after school program. Coming out of this pandemic, the kids are going to be behind, right? We know this, to your point. Certain things that we can do for ourselves. We got to go back to the old ideas. We got to build up our sense of who we were, right? Got to remind ourselves that we are African Americans, and because these kids are still shooting each other, right? And part of the reason they're shooting each other is because in their minds, right, they've internalized all this craziness. We had it too. We just were strong and we fought past it, right? But all us black folks got that internalized self-hatred. We do. All of us were born and raised in white supremacy, and we had to fight against it mentally. We all fight. All of us sitting here because we fought against it mentally. And so we have to help the young people understand how to fight back. One of the ways you fight back against stuff when people are coming at you is you have a solid sense of who you are. People can't move you off your square. Why? Because you somebody. People can come at you all kind of sideways, right? And you're going to stand up and you're going to kind of fight back. Well, let's do this. Because you have a sense of who you are, right? You ain't going to go fight your brothers. You're going to fight the cat coming at you. But when you internalize the self-hatred, you know who you see as your enemy? Somebody who looks like you. So we got to address that, but we can do the small things. You talk about the economic piece, support each other in the business thing, but support each other socially, right? Remember, y'all, hey, Bobby, we grew up where you can go next door and borrow a cup of coffee, right? A cup of sugar, a cup of,
Right.
and we talk about it like it's just a foreign concept. We can bring it back. We have to, we got to begin to help one another see each other as brothers and sisters again. I said this, that's why I lost my voice. I was fussing at the protest yesterday because some young cat got the mic and started calling people bees. And I was like, are you kidding me, brother man? We're not doing that out here, right?
Right.
Oh, it was ugly. I
Right.
said, no, when you come out here,
Right.
you're going to learn something. Here, we're going to respect. If you look around, there's different sexes, different races, and we're not going to act like the people who killed us, right?
Right.
We are going to. Malcolm talked about. No, Malcolm MLK talked about. Hey, we got to establish a new set of values, and us old heads, we're best suited to help do that. To be honest with you, we do. We can't have it. How the hell are we gonna fight these folks and we got the same values as them? I'm just gonna keep it real. We got to change our value. We can't be blinging it while they're trying to, banging us. You know what I'm saying? We got to figure out some ways to live a little simpler, give a little more, right? And get off the couch, join the protest, because they're telling us by backing up that it does work. So instead of there being less of us, there should be more of us. And I'm done with that. But that's what I think. So the old ways we can reincorporate churches and sororities. Everybody can do their part, right? But when they hit us, we got to hit back. That's why we can't speak of economics. In France, sometimes the whole country shut down. When they come up with some foolishness, they don't go to work, right? They don't pay no bills. They don't go, they don't ship nothing from Amazon. They don't go to the bank, right? They don't go to the ball game. We kind of scared of that idea. That's part of why they got us. They got us over. Some of us got on them boats with them trinkets. You know what I'm saying? We got to leave them trinkets down, brothers. We got to make some. You can't make no real progress in your life personally without making some sacrifice. We have to do that socially.
Well,
Brother Mel, you
like
hit
you were
it.
saying in regards
You
to we talking about this Black Lives Matter, and I was talking to some other folks in the community, and they made Black Lives Matter as only this organization, this 501c3 organization, Black Lives Matter, and they want to make it out to be some socialist organization, blah 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 blah. I said, but listen, I understand you talking about an organization, Black Lives Matter, but when you hear the bulk of the community saying Black Lives Matter, it's not about the organization. It's about us
the
saying
movement.
that we matter. And
Right.
when we show the community that Black lives matter to us, and rest assured, we're going to make sure Black lives matter to you as well. That's when we're going to raise that bar, like what you were saying, Mel, because we got to go ahead and start doing like what we used to do and rally those things around where we can make a difference for Black lives and all other lives all around us, because we have an impact, whether folks want to admit it or not. We have a tremendous impact. And like you said, like they do in France, uh, we can shut it down. Okay, stop buying, stop going to the stores, just like in the old days as well. They didn't ride the bus, they didn't go to the stores.
Right.
So why don't we do those things even even now. We've shut
That's
down
right.
some places in Memphis before, but because of racist attitudes at certain restaurants and stores, everybody stopped going. You know, hey, we 70% of the folks in Shelby County. So, hey, you don't want that to happen because your store will shut down and you will go out of business. And we have to do what we have to do to make things happen. So I like that. We need to do that more.
Yeah. And
If I
speaking of
may,
Black Lives Matter, did anyone hear the incident with the black sports journalist Jason Whitlock, who made a big issue out of one of the co-founders of Black Lives Matter having a house that was worth supposedly 1 point something $1 million, and it's turned into this new thing to delegitimize it as some money cash cow, and they use this guy Jason Whitlock, as Malcolm say, there's always some black person that they gonna parade out there. uh, but yeah, it's one of those things that's been out there, and I was just bringing it up. Ruben, you were about to say something.
yeah, if I
Yeah.
want to say, I want to make a quote from one of a great lyricist. He says, emancipate yourself from mental slavery.
That's
None but
right.
ourselves can free our
We
minds.
are minds, yes.
So what all of this stuff comes back to now, one of the things that we don't understand, that the there are forces out there playing that Jedi mind trick on us. And there's a thing called and social social conditioning and psychological conditioning. And the way that they control our mind, you alluded to it, Brother Busby, is through these, these whatever applications or sources that we're using, whether it's television. We are being programmed daily. When you see on television, only images that you see of a black person is a negative images, that's the programming. So if I never had an interaction with a black person, but when I see on TV, they're always they're in jail or they're doing something nefarious or whatever. If I'm from a different race, I'm saying that these people are bad people. Our children, listen to the music that they take your time and listen. I know I can't listen to what they're being fed. And then they have headphones on, right? It's really,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just being drilled
Mm-hmm.
into them. And all of these
Mm-hmm.
things that we're talking about our values, about our culture, about all of that, we are probably the most cultured people in the world. Everybody wants to take from our culture what our real culture is. But what's happening is that we are being conditioned through our education. Black history is not taught in our real black history is not taught in our school. All the kids get taught is Martin Luther King had a dream. They don't teach us about our history, but we should be responsible for teaching ourselves about our history. You go to a Jewish synagogue, they are required for those kids to come on Saturday to learn about their history. We have to do reprogramming. Seriously. You can't even get to some of the kids. I heard you saying, Brother Williams, that we need to talk to the kids. Some of the kids have been so programmed, when you try to talk to them, they think you talking at them or that you're trying to, disrespect them in some kind of way. They have to be reprogrammed because all of the things that we have now are programming us to see ourselves as less. All of the imagery, all of that stuff. You heard of the subliminal imagery and that, so that we get that on a constant. And not only that, the food that we consume. These folks are who are the 1%ers of that wealth. They are the ones that create this whole rift, you see. The issue is about how that 1% can maintain their wealth, because they know the America is browning. The world has always been brown. And if we ever wake up and we realize that it's more of us than it is of them, that we can take that power, we can take that wealth. If we wake up and realize, as all of you been saying, the power that we have within. But as long as we are being conditioned socially and psychologically. This is why we keep you in there. The ghetto, the word ghettos we used with Jewish people first before it was blacks. And they put them in these communities, right? And they made them live in these slums. Say, this is where you belong, this is where your place was. But somehow, because of their education, because of how they communicated, and because they didn't have that idiot box on 24 hours, or listening to all of this other stuff that's just really, propagating these negative images of ourselves, which goes to the killing that you were talking about, Mel. Mel, you hit it. You hit it on the head. I got so much more to say about that, but I know Boney needs to jump in. So I'm
Yeah.
telling you, social and psychological conditioning, we gotta address that.
Okay, Boney, Mr. Boney, I know
Yes,
you
sir.
gotta go, bro.
Yeah, man. First of all, as always, I want to thank you guys for having me on, man. You know, it's always a stealth and real discussion with real brothers. So I appreciate that, man. And I look forward to coming back on. But, as a council member and as a black man, as someone who's, also a journalist who follows these things, I truly understand the importance of being engaged and how my participation, my involvement makes a difference, especially when it comes to public policy, when it comes to the type of articles that are written for and about Black people, and when it comes to, things that impact us on a day-to-day basis. But I often ask myself the question, man, why is it so much easier to buy assault weapons than it is to have the right to vote? Why is it so much easier to kill a Black man and get away with it with no accountability than it is to, just simply have the accessibility to vote? You think that in the midst of mass shootings that are taking place regularly and whatnot, that giving people easy access to buying powerful assault weapons would be something that they would be looking to put restrictive laws and processes in place to prevent that from happening. But no, they want to stop us from voting. And you got to ask yourself why? Why here in America? So, it's no secret that those who sought to disenfranchise us and restrict us from voting and living, and having things. I just did an article this week in the Forward Times, about there's still verbiage and many of our deed restrictions down here in Texas, particularly in Harris County, that says, basically that if you Black or if you're not white, you can't live in this particular area. And you know, those things, although there were some laws put in place, just think about the things that happened through redlining and through all of the other things that took place back in the day. Forcing Blacks to live in certain areas of town versus whites in certain areas, and their property values being worth more and resources going their way, and all of the discriminatory things and segregationist things that happen, and how we get to where we are today. So a lot of these things, man, did not happen overnight. George Floyd didn't happen overnight. Breonna Taylor didn't happen overnight. Sandra Bland didn't happen overnight. Tamir Rice didn't happen overnight. These restrictive laws, didn't happen overnight like what happened in Georgia. Hell, we used to have to tell people how many bubbles in a bar of soap or how many marbles in a jar in order to get access to register to vote. So this ain't nothing new under the sun, man. Like I said earlier, and I just want to strongly encourage everybody. Voting has a profound impact on our representation, on our resources, on the power that comes with voting. So let's not give up that right. Let's keep fighting for it, and making sure that we put people in position that have the power to make decisions that control the way the world works for us. Thank y'all.
Right on, bro. Thank you, Mr. Boney.
All right,
Okay.
peace.
Hey, with that being said, let's do this. I know it's getting past the hour. We've so if we could spend each one of us, let's take, and I say 30 seconds, uh, to leave us with something profound about what we can do um, to get the knees off our neck. Trini, we're gonna start with you.
And there's a quote I want to recite. It says, respect, responsibility, and perseverance too. They bring out the best in me and you. Honesty and being fair helps to show others how much you really care. We know what's right. We know what's good. We should do the things that we know we should. This is who we are, even when no one is watching. Uh, they used to say it on the intercom at my children's school when they were elementary, and everybody remembers that little quote. I don't know who wrote it or where it came from, but that's what we represent as a community and as a people. And that's what every person should have as a part of their responsibility. So when we leave on this thing today, hopefully somebody from the listeners will be applying who they are, even when nobody's watching. Are you good? Are you not so good? Are you helping someone else? Because all of us are blessed to be a blessing. And one more thing that I like to share with people is that it's up to me to be the best I can be. What's the best? Only God knows. We follow that, we'll be all right.
Okay. Mel?
I like to fall back on my experience sometimes and point out to people that when you're struggling with stuff, a few things are important. Figure out what other people did. Malcolm X said this to get free from what they were struggling against. And once you figure out how they got free, it's how you'll get free. And you won't get it by doing what you've always done. It won't work. What you got to do, and it's difficult. And part of our problem is we don't want to face the fact that we're an oppressed nationality in this country. It's in right in our face, but it's a hard thing. Except they keep killing us because we're an oppressed nationality, right? They ain't just killing anybody. And so, what we have to do ultimately, brother, is we're gonna have to fight back. I like to tell people that, if you don't fight, you can't win, right? And no doubt about it. You can't. You might maybe you lose, no doubt. But if you don't fight, you surely cannot win. Remember, Freddie Douglass said, "If there is no struggle, there is no progress."
Mr. Roberts?
I want to keep it very simple. Tune out and tune in. We got to block out these distractions. We really got to really be laser focused on what our end goal is as a people. We start with our families. I mean, we can't, that's the way you start. You start with your families. We have to educate our kids. We got to give them information that will help them know how to maneuver in this world that we live in, how to protect themselves, how to think and grow rich, how to keep themselves healthy, so that we don't succumb to all of these things that are coming down to us. Look at how many people are on so many different medications. Look at the diabetes rate. Look at the hypertension rate. Look at what's going on with our people. We're being destroyed from a mental perspective and from a health perspective. And so we have to pay attention. We have to pay attention. Tune out and tune in. Pay attention to what's going on within. Be connected with the inner man. Turn that TV off at times. Sit by yourself. Think, contemplate, grow. That's what we have to do. We can't control anything outside of us, but we can definitely control what's happening with us, within us. That's where your power lies. And when you start thinking and seeing things, things will come more clearer to you. Tune out and tune in.
Okay. Mr. Busby?
All right. Man, this has been a great evening. I once saw a quote that said, "Man robes himself in the belief of his intelligence. Yet he is the one species that understands himself the least. Of all the other species, a bird is not oblivious to what its mission is, nor a flower or a tree or any other species. Man is the one that understands himself the least. We can't even take care of ourselves. Uh, in doing that, I was thinking about that because, when I think about and I see some of these white people doing these crazy things, it's not so much as them that get to me. Who I'm trying to find out are the co-signers and the people who are quiet are the people who make up the excuses for it, because those are the people I mean, when we go back to civil rights, I mean, there were very few whites, but yet I hear all these white people telling me how great Dr. King is, and I want to ask, where was your parents? Where did they stand? It's not so many of them that were against them, but I bet you it was a whole bunch of them that were quiet. And that's the one that gets me the most, because then I can't depend on you if you're gonna be quiet on me in critical times. We talking about this gun. We talking about gun violence. We got a reparations bill that we still struggling with. We're trying to just look at slavery. How we gonna fix gun violence, and we don't even want to look at ourselves and say, how did we come here? And so for me, I'm asking that on personal levels of other people in my circle. If you love me, I just got to ask, are you really in this fight with me?
Okay. Well, you know, I want to thank y'all for. I know we bit our tongues on a couple of points where we really wanted to uh, perhaps use some very choice words to get across some things. I can only speak for myself, but I can feel the angst from conversation. I can see your faces, so I know and I understand that, and I appreciate that. But I thank each and every one of you for taking the time out. And I know, Mel, you're in the hot spot, bro. So our prayers are with you. Ruben, you just came, just stepped aside from a little bit, but you're still in it. Trini, uh, I know we didn't touch on your platform that you use on Sunday mornings from where you come from. So I know we understand. But I want to leave y'all with this. The other day I was hanging out with a friend. This friend is a believer, but doesn't always act like one. Some days he's in line with God's word, and some days life struggles get the best of him. And as our eyes met, I really wanted to say something about it, but I decided to let the Lord speak to him, to speak to his heart, knowing nothing I could say would have the same impact as the Father's word. So I said a prayer with him, and after some time passed, I winked at him and walked away from the mirror. So, brothers, if we're going to do anything and start with anything, we got to start with us and be perfectly honest with us. So, I want to say thank you very much. To thyself be true. And let's get this thing done. God bless you all.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you. Good
God
meeting
bless you
all
all
of
as
you
well.
guys. Thank you for
Nice to
coming.
meet you all. All righty. All righty. Well,
Praying for you.